Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday, the 18th of April. So, looking at euro dollar first, as it's probably the only one I may want to trade this morning, at the moment at least. So, as he says, but not even at the moment. So, yesterday, no surprises, we didn't really get too much of a headwind behind us, and the price reversed. It bounced later on during the day there, but still looks like it's decisively indecisive. We've got the monthly pivot, which it seems to be hugging around backwards and forwards around that sort of area. Whether we'll see another sell-off towards that, we'll see this morning. Just looking from a 60-minute point of view, and it's completely, as I say, indecisive in terms of giving us clues into direction here. The actual dailies don't give us any clues, so it's really a case of seeing what happens post 8 o'clock. It's all there is a bit of a triangle going across there, a triangle. Just get the trend line up. Hold on. Here we go. So we're in a wedge pattern, I should say. It's sort of, well, be on the current candle at the moment, and it's likewise. So we're looking somewhere there. So really need to see what happens when it breaks from this range. It gives us a bit of a clue. Opportunities are there. Yesterday's highs, lows as targets. As the R1, S1. So looks like there may be opportunities. There's little to drive it. We've got the final inflation report, CPI report coming in from Europe, but all the flash numbers are all through, so don't expect too much movement around that at 10 o'clock. So that's the good news. Okay, the pound. Well, the pound we got news at 9:30, so it may become tradable. I'm just wary of it pre 9:30. Still got the weekly pivot below, which may become a target. The wage inflation wasn't great yesterday, so if the inflation numbers themselves are down as well, CPI is expected to come in at 2.7. If it is lower than 2.7, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a reasonable retracement. Maybe the weekly pivot could come into range. As we're sitting here, it's looking in the short-term time frame or intermediate time frame, sort of bear flaggy sort of pattern kicking in, but the longer-term pattern is still this strong upward trend. And again, we could be putting trend lines on here. Put it on from these lows. Probably the most logical one is there. I can get it on there and pop it across, and you can see we're just sort of sitting on that as a trend line at the moment, so giving us a bit of support. Pulling down to the 60-minute time frames here, well, it's just air kissed the daily pivot there, and again, it looks good for the downside in terms of the short term here if the results on the inflation figures come out poor. But I think even if it starts breaking this morning, it might, who knows, it might start moving a bit earlier, but I think I'll just steer clear of it until that news is out at 9:30. Okay, dollar yen. Yen surprised us a little bit, or surprised me a little bit here. It broke yesterday, and I thought, well, maybe we could see some further downside on that, but pushing to the upside at the moment, and looking like it may just continue in that mode for now at least. Been in that sort of mode for some time now. Intermediate wise, it's as I say, it's sold off, and it looked like. Even from that 60.50 yesterday, later on in the afternoon there, it rolled over again. But through the Asian session here, talks of with Japan and Trump, with the Japanese Prime Minister, even and Trump, seemed to fuel the stock markets, and the yen fell away a little bit there. So we'll see how what develops, but it does look at the moment now, it looks like it may be in another upward phase, but it may be short-lived. Aussie dollar is nowhere currency. It's not going anywhere. Look, I readjusted the trend lines yesterday. There's two to look at. There's a near-term high, so I was looking at the main high there, which it to this more recent low, but at the moment, well, perhaps it's going to come down for its weekly pivot, but it's not something I'm going to be sitting in there looking to try and trade. it's got very few little way in the way of profit potential down to that weekly pivot, the 4-hourly 50, and just look at it. What do I want to be sitting in that for? So I'll leave it there. Yes, it's got the potential for rolling over, and yes, after being so consolidated, just as it went up last Thursday or Friday, and it eventually started moving. We may get a decent move, but to be sitting in a position for 40, 50 hours, 60 hours, 2 days, 3 days, that's just going predominantly sideways is just not worth the risk. Canadian dollar. Okay, so we've got data coming out later on. We've got the Bank of Canada monetary policy report, rate statement, overnight rates, all to be released. It's expected that they're not going to do any changes to the overnight rate, but of course the statement will be key. And there is a press conference at 4:15, so possibly some volatility will come in later. Let's have a look from the daily perspective at the moment. Bit of divergence on the daily. Was that my? Let me just check. I've got the. Yep, there was still a bit of divergence. Sitting here, got the potential for the weekly pivot still untouched above. If the Bank of Canada's sort of reports are a bit soft, maybe it will run up to that weekly pivot quite easily. But as I said, there is the risk of the fact that it's coming out alone. So whilst it's pushing up at the moment, it may be all change come 3 o'clock. Right. So at the moment, softening there. Let's just have a look at the price of oil. Still pushing up this morning. It's been pushing up until this morning. So it's a bit of a, maybe it's traders closing off positions or whatever, or settling their books, whatever, expecting the worst over the Canadian dollar, but certainly solid move there at the moment. So to me, it's a bit of a non-tradable at the moment. The Aussie dollar is non-tradable. The yen is a bit bitty and may set something up. The pound I'd leave until 9:30. So it really leaves us this morning in summary just the euro to be having a look at. And well, that's just kicked off to the downside at the moment, but it's not even 8 o'clock. So I'll watch that, see what happens as we progress there. But as I said, there is opportunity maybe on the downside back down towards yesterday's lows. Have a great day. Bye for now.